Da-da-da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give it, or Instagram, no, let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. Let people know that I've gone live, and that mishap is because this has been a live show that I have had on Instagram for a few years now, and I felt it because I was such a Google girl, and because my story in my understandings of my movement forward started here on YouTube. And this feels like home for me. This feels like a place where I can make some impact. And that truly is what I'm doing here. This is, right, showing up here, fresh like a loaf of bread, right? And then today I actually was struggling a little bit because I wanted to come at this word. And if you guys are just showing up now and you weren't here yesterday, we pick our sixth word, and our sixth word was comfort. And I was trying today to come in, and I thought it would be really wonderful if I came in with a different perspective on that word comfort. And I kept coming back to the difficulties, kept coming back to the uncomfortableness. And I had to give it some contemplation, and I have had to give it some thought. And I even sat here, for 10 minutes or so, right? Ready to go live, but not ready to go live because I still hadn't committed to the perspective that I was going to come in with. And then I thought about it and I went, oh my goodness, it's because I'm thinking about it. It's because, right? That procrastination, and it is unintentional, right? Hit that live button, Cindy. Go live. And I should be trusting that I could hit that live button, right? And just come in. And hello, Andrew. Thank you so much for popping in today. Oh my goodness. That long. That's been a long time for that letter to get to you, Andrew. Oh my goodness. I thought you got it already. I'll have to keep an eye on the mail because you said that you sent me a letter too. So we'll be watching the mail for that. But to come back into the topic, and we were talking about comfort this week. That's the word we picked yesterday to talk about this week. And yesterday I was talking about that little bit of how sometimes we really want the couch and the remote control, and it's really hard for us as empaths and as highly sensitives to motivate ourselves to move, because in our past, right, any kind of movement, any kind of change, anything that we could not control in our day-to-days, that was always so uncomfortable, right? And I thought when I came live today, and I says, this is exactly the perfect topic for us to be munching on right now, is to get this part of it right off the table so we have an understanding of the type of people that might benefit from some of that content that I'm going to put out there, right? And it is in my procrastination of not hitting that live button and trusting today that the message would get across. And I caught that, right? And when I caught that, I said, that's what the problem is, right? The problem is being a highly sensitive and being empathic that way, right? Maybe a little bit of complex trauma, a little bit of being under the thumb of somebody else. Maybe you grew up in a dynamic family and you have some very controlling, maybe some narcissistic family members, right? That we have been influenced by, and we are influenced truly by the people that we surround ourselves with. And, in my lessons, right? And I was very comfortable to tell you the truth, in what was hurting me the most in my life. And that was in who I was surrounding myself with, trusting in my, right, in that trauma bonding that kept me comfortable, made it so I didn't have to fend for myself. I didn't have to learn for myself, right? That somebody else was going to take care of my problems and everything was going to be okay. No, that was not the case, and that wasn't a truth. It was the furthest thing from the truth. In actuality, it was just an extension of the core problem of my entire life, right? Is handing over that power to other people because, right? I liked it where it was comfortable. I wasn't willing to put that work in. I wasn't willing to say no to myself. I wasn't willing to treat myself like everybody else in this world had ever treated me, right? I was making it comfortable for myself because I had gone through so much already that, I didn't want to go through it again. I didn't want to delve into it again. I didn't want to deal with it again. I already sacrificed relationships. You mean I got to sacrifice some more relationships? Oh my goodness, I gave in that aspect. And oh my goodness, you're saying that I gave up the wrong thing, right? Or I gave up too soon, or I pivoted too soon, because lots of times as highly sensitives and as empaths, when we don't see that reward, when we don't see the evidence, when we don't see the success immediately, right? Right? That we can be disillusioned, and we'll look for something that maybe might not be so comfortable, but we think in the moment, if we could just endure that one thing, right, everything will fall into place, or things will go back to the way they were. And that's never the way that we should think. And so today, sitting here, right, and I'm ready to hit the live button, and yet I wasn't ready to hit the live button. And in not hitting the live button, there was the lesson for me, right? But maybe that's a lesson for you too, in that procrastination of putting ourselves in those situations that are uncomfortable, right? That we need to do. It's uncomfortable for me to go down to the mailbox and go in there and get my bills. It's more comfortable for me for those bills to sit there for the next month, because no news is good news, and I could use that money for something else. I can feel a little bit comfortable in this moment of not having to deal with that stress of knowing that there's a bill to be paid in my mailbox, right? And that's just something. That's just something, but there's a gazillion things at any moment that we are procrastinating in, that we're trying to make ourselves comfortable, right? I'm trying to make myself comfortable on this set of days off that I have, because I had such a hard week last week in lots of different aspects of my life, and I felt I needed to regroup, and I needed to re-energize, and I needed to maybe have light lessons, or maybe a little bit of connection to Mother Nature, right? But all I can do is feel it out in the moment and trust that, right, as long as I'm not making the choice to be so comfortable, right? I can deal with a little bit. I can deal with having a little bit, because I feel I can have that little bit of sweat going on right now. That's a little bit of a residue of this cold that I have. But I know that I can deal with that because I'm doing my life, and that's important, and that's part of my commitment to my accountability to myself, because I promised that I was going to show up every day. right? And I don't get to choose, right, when the cold is going to flare up, because in the next minute I could have the chills when I have a cold. And there's something to delve into too, right? Wanting to be comfortable. And I said, I'm going on a holiday in a week. And I'm looking for that rootness in this holiday. It's happening, right? It is happening, but I have to pep talk myself that it's happening, because I don't see anything rooted. That's a for sure. I got the truck booked, but so many things could happen to make it so that that truck could be unbooked in the next second, whether it's a cancellation. I got COVID going on with at work, right? People that we know that are sick. Anything can happen there. And what am I supposed to do? Be selfish in the moment and say, oh, okay, you guys are on your own. I'm on my vacation. It's not the person that I'm on. So I'm sending out good cheer. Everybody, stay healthy. You can do it, right? And I'm being a cheerleader. I'm showing up and I'm overextending myself in order to get some projects accomplished. So it'll make it easier for them while I'm away, and that hit won't be so felt, right? So that might put a kink in my trip. My sister got COVID. One of my sisters got COVID. I just saw her earlier this week, right? And again, I took another COVID test. It makes 3 COVID tests I've taken with this cold, because it's been with me for 2 weeks now. But it's that lesson of keep your face mask on. I'm going to get over this cold. I feel 100 times better already. It's just all coming out of my lungs right now. The energy's coming back. I feel good about that part. But I'm not leaving for a week. And in that week span, right, anything could happen. So I have to understand that at any moment I could be uncomfortable. In this moment, I'm pretty comfortable. Even now, I can feel that little bit of a sweat that I had going on a few moments ago. It's already starting to dissipate. But we don't know from one moment to the next. And we just, right, I can say, oh, Cindy, you don't have to do your live today. Make yourself a cup of coffee, pour yourself some orange juice, sit in your chair, taking some lessons, right? Have a bath, right? And just coddle myself. But listen to that word coddle. I don't like that word coddle, because coddling is I'm still getting things done. Today I'm still doing my life. I'm still getting the dishes done, but I'm doing it in baby steps, and everything will be accomplished that I need to accomplish. I'm even working on my trip, right? I'm organizing the things that I'm taking with me. Right now I'm working on my electrical and camera bag, right, for filming and stuff on my trip. And I want to make sure. I just found my monopod. I just got super excited because my monopod is my favorite thing to use when I'm using my film or my camera to film, right? And I was so excited that I got it. And so I am making that move it forward. But is it comfortable? Probably, right? It's more comfortable to sit at my desk and take in lessons, or have some juice, or right, have a nice bath, or maybe take a nap. I'm not a napper, but there are so many other things that I could do. But that movement isn't going to happen unless I take that initiative to make that movement. And here's the kicker, you guys, right? As highly sensitives and as empaths, we have more difficulty, right, than the regular Joe out there when it comes to motivation. And it is because, right, we've been through it. We've been through it. We don't want to go through it again, right? But sometimes we have to, because that's where those lessons are. And so we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And right, and when you find little groups and stuff like this to kind of do that work with, it makes it so it's not so uncomfortable, right? Can you imagine if I didn't show up here every day, right, and have these, and I'm hashing the lessons, right, but I'm rehashing them for myself. I'm also putting them to the world in the hopes that somebody else, right, might need that lesson in the moment and just happened onto it. The poet, I great faith in YouTube and in Google, right? If the lesson is good enough, it will be served, right? And I'm not the judge of that. You're the judge of that. So the only thing I can do is make it as comfortable process for myself as I possibly can. And I would have to say I'm pretty comfortable, right? And in this moment, I've got a lot of hairy, scary going on, right? My amazing once a year trip is dangling there, right? So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. But at the same time, right, the lessons have got me busy to keep my mind off that. So all I have to do is have faith and trust that that's going to happen. And I'm reverse engineering. I'm packing. I'm getting things done. I'm doing my part, what I can do in order to make that trip happen, right? What's out there? I ride those waves, and sometimes in friendly persuasion, sometimes in uh, friendly sportsmanship, sometimes in pushing myself a little bit harder, right? Right? Knowing I'm not going to break. And if it's too uncomfortable, understanding that I'm going to procrastinate and I'm going to notice I'm procrastinating. And in that moment, I will decide whether or not to hold myself accountable, right? And say, oh, Cindy, smart enough, silly girl, you can do it. And maybe that's all I need is a little bit of a pep talk. Sometimes it's just a little bit of a realization, just like I did before I did my live show. That's what we need to talk about is the comfortable that holds us back from the things that we were meant to do, the things that we were meant to be, the people that were supposed to be in our lives, but because we didn't make that first step to introduce ourselves, right? That they didn't even get to see us, right? Didn't get to hear us. And it was an opportunity missed. And I've had lots of moments like that, but we can't regret those moments, right? All we can do is recognize them, and maybe in our choices, we can do something that can rectify it, or we can go back into the lessons and realize that, we're only human, right? And part of that process is just to realize where we made the mistakes. And if we can realize where we made the mistakes and we can voice it, have a conversation or an experience in that, right? That's the patterning of it coming back and giving us another shot at it, another try at it, right? But we are a special breed, highly sensitives and empaths, right? Lots of people got labels on it, right? But I'm calling us highly sensitives and empaths only because um, it's a feeling, right? And it's a feeling that you might recognize that you belong in that category of feeling, right? That we need. It's not special lessons. We just need to find our own lessons because we're in the middle, right? We are neither there or there. We're in the middle, and that makes us special. Certainly, it does because we can draw, right? We can draw and we can create for ourselves from what we draw. And it's up to us whether we want to take those things, those nice, bright, shiny, fluffy, light, cute, uh, non rock the boat kind of things, or we can move into those hairy, hairy, scary, drive, do it anyway, do as I say, not as I do. And just out of that terror and that fear of what will happen if we don't do that, there's another option because we are in the middle, right? That we need middle, middle, middle lessons in the middle, right? Lessons that will help us to untangle those wires, right? Because we understand that in that amalgamation and in that assimilation, right? That some of those lessons are meant for that, and some of those lessons are meant for that. And sometimes in that confusion, right? And sometimes in that lack of permission, right? And because in the end, it's only us giving ourselves permission to delve a little bit deeper, right? And sometimes it's just the smallest things. It's just sometimes just a word in a conversation, a look in somebody's eye, right? I remember asking a question one time to somebody, and the question was, how come I don't see other YouTubers? Because I was an urban explorer, right? I explored abandoned farms and abandoned houses. And if you haven't seen any of my other uh, um, videos, go and check out my channel, right? I love adventuring. I love exploring. And when I say explore the inside and the outside, I love Mother Nature. I love history. And I've been taught that because I love understanding emotions, I love mindset, I love doing this, that I had to recognize that I could give myself permission to conglomerate it all together. Is that a word? Conglomerate, right? Amalgamate, assimilate, just like I'm doing for myself. I can do all of that and mix it all together. And if that's the case, right, how far could my reach be, right? And is it possible in friendly persuasion, right? Because that's what it is. I am, I am, I am different. I am different. And I know there are people out there who are also different. They might not be like me, but they might be sort of kind of like me, right? And you're going to play your story out a little bit different. But it all depends on how comfortable you want to be, how comfortable you need to be, and how comfortable you decided, right? Right? It's going to be somewheres in the middle, right? Because we cannot be that. We right? That's that's obsolete. There, that's the word. That's obsolete, right? That's the old way. But we neither can swing that far either because we've recognized something different, right? We've recognized a different truth for ourselves. So that's not going to work for us either, right? And we can see that 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 isn't going to, what's the word? Well, when and you hear it all the time, planting the seed and watching the seed grow. But you can plant lots and lots of seeds, but not all those seeds will grow, right? Because lots of times, again, we look for that comfortable, and people are comfortable right where they are, right? But so we can't be there. We can't be there either, right? We have to be somewheres in the middle. And that's fantastic for me because it means I don't have to give up totally that, right? And at the same time, I don't have to, well, I would never anyway, because I understand I'm creating the best human being I possibly can. And so I'm not going to give up that humanness in me either, right? That causes me all this frustration that makes me stick around in these lessons for so long. But it's not just the human, because remember, right? Those other parts of us are taking lessons at the same time. And that's what being in the middle is, right? I'm grateful to have your company, right? I'm honored to have your company. We're all in different stages of this 100%, right? I can see it, you can see it, but we can all do a little bit better by ourselves by just understanding, right? A little bit better. And, I think today I understand a little bit. I understand a little bit better. I understand why I always say baby steps, because that baby steps has allowed me to digest the lessons just a little bit better, right? Not to just be frantic to move into the next one without absorbing the last one. And I think, right, in doing that, I might be able to make some better decisions moving forward. And if I can make some better decisions, right, and if I can show in the evidence of my movement that, right, those were good decisions, right, maybe somebody else will get out of their comfort zone, right? I know, I get it. Comfy, comfy. I like the comfy. I like the sweats. I don't have a TV, so I wouldn't have a remote control, but I love the lessons. I love my office chair, right? But it's not healthy for me just to be in my apartment. I'm grateful for the wonderful job that I have that grounds me into being that human, that I have an opportunity in my own practicing of my craft, right? Because that's what it is. I'm practicing my craft in the job that allows me to ground in it, and it allows me, right, at times to be able to sit comfortable, right, knowing that I don't have to, right, avoid the mail in my mailbox. I haven't been so good about that this month, but we'll work on that next month. I forgive myself my failures, my fault, my own feeling of comfortable. That's exactly what it is, right? I'm going on a trip. I should be like locked down in what I'm spending, right? And yet, right, I'm still not saying no to myself. And that's a lesson for me. And maybe it will reflect in the holiday that I have, right? I am grateful that on the norm it doesn't, because this has been an ongoing process and I am a work in process, right? But I don't know. That uncomfortableness, it really struck home yesterday in the first thing that, you know, first impression, my first perception of the word. And then today, looking for a way to look at comfort in a different perspective, because there's lots of ways, right? We're only looking at, right? We're looking at getting out of your comfort. We're looking at the difficulty and those procrastinations and being our own worst instigator. And we're looking at that stuff. But comfortable also comes when you take the lessons, because I couldn't imagine, say, 3 years ago, if I hadn't taken those lessons, if I woke up to some of those ideas that I did, but just in wanting to be comfortable, right? Just is okay, right? Things are a little bit different, but I'm going to ride those waves and just carried on with my life. Where would I be right now? I truly believe I would be delving into some of those comfortablenesses, comfortablenesses that didn't serve me well. And I can tell you the truth when I say that there was a time that sitting in front of a video lottery terminal, pulling as a electronic slot machines, gambling. That was one of the things. I have not gambled in 4 years, But I tell you, without some of these lessons, right, about getting out of my comfort zone, about being my own teacher by being a participant rather than a spectator or student, but that understanding, right? I am a combination and I should be doing all of that, right? Never getting so wrapped up in the dictating of it, right? The serving of it, that to realize that that maybe I think I don't need any lessons anymore, that I've got that, right? I would never think that because I'm continuously surprised daily at the things I don't know, right? The things I don't know. Okay, you guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to have something to drink. I'm going to get back to my camera gear and get that sorted out. I'm going to have my cup of coffee. I'm using my Vancouver mug today. For those of you who don't know, I'm from, well, I live here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I moved here when I was 18 years old. The most amazing province, I tell you, right? The people here, it's the jewel, right? The kind, caring, yeah, I tell you, they're just amazing. But I am from Vancouver and I grew up in Vancouver. In fact, I grew up all over British Columbia, but I was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, and what a beautiful, beautiful province that is. But in the years that I've been here, right? I love being a Manitoba, and I truly am grateful that I came to this province. Right, it was probably one of the first times that I was seen and I was heard, and it had nothing to do with the way I looked, right, or the way that I presented myself. It all had to do with the feelings, right, and I am grateful for the characters who come into my life and when they come into my life. And there's a lesson in that all by itself. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer, and we'll see each other tomorrow.